This is the audio dramatization of blog post Smoke and Mirrors. Things aren't always what they seem. I remember it just like it was yesterday. It was the 4th of July weekend. I was laying on my back in my bed with my arms folded behind my head like a pretzel. And as I stared at the ceiling, swoosh, swoosh, swoosh was the tune the fan sang as I unconsciously slipped into deep thought while the soft breeze from the fan brushed against my skin. Oh God, it was scorching hot outside, but it was still a beautiful day. The sun was high and bright, and I can just imagine all the plans that people had barbecuing, going to the VP fair, all the get togethers, and all that. And I just hated that I couldn't really enjoy the day because I had to be at work by 11 p.m. and I needed to get some sleep. But as I was lying there, no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't fall asleep. I tossed and I turned and I turned and I tossed until finally I just got still. And then that's when I noticed it. I was sad. I was feeling so very sad about many things, but still being single was at the top of my emotions. I couldn't understand it. I had been born again for many, many, many. Did I say many years? I had been walking upright before the Lord, as far as I was concerned anyway, and it just seemed like every female I knew was getting married but me. Here I am, not even a bridesmaid and barely a guest at anybody's wedding. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock is what I began to hear. And even though at the time I didn't even want any children, I began to hear my biological clock ticking. I'm a few years shy of 30, and there is not one prospect of a husband in sight. Not one! OMG! Am I gonna go to my grave an old maid just like they said? Now, laying on my side, staring at the wall, I began to count the women in my head that I personally knew were engaged. One, two, three, four. And that's when the warm tears began to fall from the corner of my eye, as if in slow motion, and then quickly brushed across the bridge of my nose, only to almost spill into my other eye. It felt so unfair. Another holiday, and I didn't even have a boo to share it with, even if I did have to work. He could have brought me a plate from his parents' house just as a gesture to say, "Hey, babe, we had a good time, but I was still thinking about you." I didn't even have a friend. That guy that you're really not all that interested in, but he's just somebody you can go to the movies with or out to dinner with. You know, that guy that, you just use to kind of get over the hump. "Cynthia! So and so is here," my mother yelled from downstairs. "OMG! God, you really do hear my thoughts," I said softly, yet with sheer excitement as I jumped out of the bed and hurried downstairs. God is so gracious. He knew I needed to pick me up, so he sent my very best male friend to check on me. Once I reached the door, I stopped and I got myself together because I didn't want him to see me all excited, because it wasn't like that between him and me. I was just so glad to have some male company. And as I opened the door, smiling, I was just about to say, "Hey!" when a hand reached in and slapped me in my face so hard that it took all of God in me not to burst out crying. There my friend was standing there with his girlfriend who was pregnant. They looked all patriotic with their matching red, white, and blue shirts, white shorts, and matching white tennis shoes. They looked so cute. Now, ladies, don't misunderstand. I wasn't upset about him being with someone. I knew that they lived together and she was pregnant and all that. It was just seeing them together, seeing the baby bump, seeing their daughter, seeing their family. It was like rubbing salt in an emotional wound. Where's my family? Hey! Uh oh. My voice is shaking like I was about to cry. Get it together, Cynthia. I kept saying in my mind. Shake it off, shake it off. You guys look so cute. Where are you about to go? I said with a crisp, clear tone. But what the heck did I ask that question for? They gave me the whole spiel of their family plans for the day. You know how when a small rock hits your windshield and leaves a small crack, and the more you drive, the more the crack begins to spiderweb? Yeah, well, that's what my emotions were doing with every little detail. Stopping by my mom's house to spend some time with her, he said. Crack. Rejection. Going down to the fair, she said. Crack. Loneliness. Going to watch the fireworks. Crack. Disappointment. Crack. 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 When they turned to leave, I stared at them as they walked away slowly. I couldn't help it. I just paused to imagine what it would be like to be in their shoes at that very moment. Not with my friend, but with someone, my someone. As they walked to their car holding hands, he tickled his little 2-year-old daughter and she giggled as she tried to run away with her little short, fat, stubby legs. And then once they made it to the car, he took his girlfriend by the hand and he carefully helped her climb in. And I slowly closed my door as if curtains closing on the end of a stage play. I turned and I pressed my back firmly against the door. I looked up to heaven as if looking into the eyes of God, and I just shook my head in disbelief. I felt that ball of emotion swelling up in my chest, and it was rising to my throat. I needed to collect myself. I didn't want my mother to see me like that. I was very private with my emotions most of the time. They were my own, and I gave people very little to limited access to those emotions that were mine. I made it to my room. I shut and locked my door, and I literally leaped in the bed like a swan dive, buried my face in my fluffy pillow, and I just let it rip. I cried so hard that my stomach hurt. Ladies, I'm talking about one of those ugly boo-hoos, okay? Now, with the most honest sincerity, I confess to you ladies that on that day I was offended with God. You know how a really good friend rubs you the wrong way and you're upset with them, but not to the point where you cut them off completely, but you're just quiet and a little different with them? Okay, well, that's how I was with God. Acts 10 and 34 says that God is not a respecter of persons. Well, as far as I was concerned, that was a bold faced lie. I knew for a fact that one of the women in our church who was about to get married was a fornicator of all fornicators, and not with the one she was about to marry, okay? Yet God was blessing her with a husband. And I had extensive conversations with another single woman, and I knew for a fact that she was as broken as a glass vase thrown against a brick wall. However, James 1 and 17 says that every good and perfect gift, wanting nothing necessary to completeness, gift comes from God. So, how was it God saw fit to give her a husband and not me? Something was wrong with this picture. So, I got it all out. I cried until there was not a tear left. Not at that moment, anyway. I got up, I blew my nose, washed my face, took a couple of swigs of NyQuil, rolled my eyes at God, and I went to sleep. A few months later, my friend called me to tell me that his girlfriend had the baby. It had been a few weeks since I had gotten the initial call, but I hadn't had a chance to get by the apartment to see the baby because of my work schedule and my school schedule. So on Saturday, I made the visit. I pulled into the parking spot. I reached in the back seat to get the gift and I jumped out of my car. Whew, man, it was a beautiful day outside. It was unusually warm that month and the sun was out and shining so bright. And I just stood by my car to allow the sun to massage my skin. Well, I don't know. Well, Maybe I was trying to absorb some strength. After a few seconds, I took a deep breath, whew, headed toward the building to face the happy family once again. Knock, knock, knock was the sound that my small knuckles made on the door. I heard the baby crying. Well, screaming. And shoot, I was hoping nobody heard me knocking so that I didn't even have to endure the sight of their happiness. Yet again. I could at least say that I came by, but nobody heard me knocking. Ugh. Then I heard someone fumbling with the doorknob. Hmm. It was my friend. Hey, come in, he said. Once I stepped across the threshold of the door, it was like I stepped into something. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but it was something. What was that? His girlfriend came out of the bedroom with the baby, and I hugged her and I asked if I could hold the baby. When I saw the baby, I genuinely lit up. She was so darn cute and so tiny. His girlfriend and I, and we sat there and we chatted it up for a while, and then it hit me. Tension. That's what that thing was that I had stepped into. It was like a curtain had been pulled back, and things look very different from what I saw months before on that 4th of July weekend. I kid you not. The phone was ringing off the hook, and it was one bill collector after another. I hadn't noticed it before, but something was up with them. They were barely talking to each other, and when they would say something, it was some blaming sarcasm about why things were as jacked up as they were. And at one point, they lost themselves and had words that let me know a little more than I cared to know. I think my presence was kind of awkward for everyone. So, as if I hadn't noticed a thing, I put on my smile, I hugged everybody, and I hit the door. As I was walking to my car, I began processing what I just witnessed. And in my spirit, I clearly heard God say, "Now, do you want what they have, or do you want to wait and get what I have for you?" Now, I know this may throw some of you off, but it's the truth anyway. God is alive and He does speak, and you have to train your spirit to know His voice. Okay, now back to the story. So, when He said that, it literally caused me to stop in my tracks. I guess because I didn't respond, I heard Him again, and He said, do you want what they have, or do you want to wait and get what I have for you?" And I said, "Lord, I want what you have for me." And right there on that parking lot, I repented to God for being angry with Him. Right at that very moment, what I call supernatural resolve came over me. I told God openly that I would never again look at someone else's relationship and wish I had what they had. I realized that day that just like circus mirrors, what you see is not always what you assume it to be. You can look in on relationships that people have, and the reflection of it appears to be the very thing that you desire. But if you're not careful, the image that you see can cause you to feel like an old maid, lonely, depressed, forgotten, and all of that. But this is it. Even if you know for a fact that someone has an awesome relationship, it's still not the one God desires for you. Now, you can be like some women who bless themselves with a straight bum and wrap it with, "God bless me with this husband." Or you can patiently wait on the one that reflects the true nature of God and the one who is a perfect fit just for you. Let me tell you, eventually my number was called. My ship did sail in. How and ever, it was several years later that my sweet husband found me. And I promise you, ladies, these many years later, he was worth waiting for. Honestly, it's not the waiting that counts, it's how you wait. Personally, during my wait, I needed to work on some things. I had a sharp tongue. I was disrespectful, full of rebellion, a gossip. I had a divorce mentality, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And honey, I would have been married long enough to get about 7 orgasms and it would have been a wrap, okay? I had the desire to be married, but I did not have the substance to stay married, and God knew it. See, it wasn't that God was trying to withhold something from me. He knew that at that season in my life, he could not present me to any man as a good gift. Okay, ladies, so what's the moral of this story? One way or another, you will wait. You can either wait on the person that is molded just for you, and in the meantime, allow God to do a work in you, or you can allow the illusion of what you see in another person's bliss to put pressure on your emotions, causing you to settle for a clown, and yes, with a K, and still have to wait on God to change him, and possibly you too. P.S. Ladies, if this story provoked questions that you have about your personal situation, feel free to ask in the comments section below. You never know, the answer to your question just may help someone else. You ladies be blessed.